I don't think Sheila expected me to smile when she told me she wanted a divorce. Actually, I'm certain she didn't. She had rehearsed this moment, probably in front of a mirror, perfecting that balance of firm yet victimized. The way she sat down across from me at the kitchen table, her hands folded like she was delivering a eulogy instead of a declaration of independence, made it obvious. She even let out a deep, theatrical sigh before saying it, like she was doing something incredibly difficult. But when the words finally left her lips, "I think we should get a divorce," my reaction caught her off guard. I smiled. Not just any smile. A slow, satisfied, almost relieved kind of smile. The kind you see on someone who just took their first deep breath after holding it in for far too long. Sheila's face twitched slightly, her confidence cracking. She had been prepared for anger, resistance, maybe even heartbreak. What she wasn't prepared for was indifference. "Okay," I said simply, leaning back in my chair. Her eyes narrowed. "That's it." I nodded, feeling lighter than I had in years. "That's it." She blinked, clearly thrown off. "You don't want to talk about it? Do we need to?" That was when I saw it, just a flicker of something in her expression. A shadow of hesitation. Regret? No, not yet. But something close. For the last few months, she had been distant. Avoiding me. Spending more time, working late, or going out with friends I had never met. She thought I was blind to it, but I had seen it all. The shift in her behavior. The way she suddenly started caring more about how she looked when she went out, but never when she was home with me. The way she smiled at her phone but barely looked at me. So no, I didn't need to talk about it. Because I already knew what this was. Sheila had someone else. And she thought she was upgrading. That's why she expected resistance, because that's how these things usually go. The husband begs, pleads, makes promises. The wife sighs, says it's too late, pretends to be sad but secretly enjoys the power of watching her husband unravel. But I wasn't going to give her that satisfaction. Instead, I stood up, stretched my arms, and let out a relaxed sigh. Honestly, this is great news, Sheila. I was starting to wonder how long we were going to keep pretending. Her mouth opened slightly, but no words came out. For the first time in a long time, she was the one who didn't know what to say. I gave her a reassuring pat on the shoulder before heading toward the fridge to grab a beer. "So, do you want to split our things now, or should we do it over the weekend?" I asked casually. She didn't answer right away. Probably because this wasn't how it was supposed to go. But that was just the beginning. She thought she was the one leaving me behind. She had no idea she was about to lose everything. Sheila didn't answer me right away. She just sat there, her carefully rehearsed script falling apart in real time. I could almost hear the gears in her head turning, scrambling to figure out why I wasn't reacting the way she had expected. She had planned this divorce like a chess move, assuming I'd fall apart the moment she declared checkmate. What she hadn't realized was that I had already left the game long before she made her move. I took a sip of my beer and casually leaned against the kitchen counter, watching her. "So?" I prompted, raising an eyebrow. Her lips parted, but no words came out. Then, finally, she managed to recover. "I think it would be best if I handled the paperwork first," she said, regaining some of her confidence. "We don't need to rush through this." Translation: she had more things to arrange before she fully cut me off. Probably with her mystery man. "Sure," I said, nodding. "Take your time." Her eyes flickered with uncertainty. She had expected resistance, anger, maybe even an argument. But all she got was calm acceptance. It was already messing with her. And that was just the beginning. That night, I started laying out my own plans. If Sheila thought she had control of this situation, she was about to get the wake-up call of her life. First, I made a few phone calls. My lawyer, an old friend who owed me a favor, was more than happy to help. I sent over everything, bank statements, property deeds, even a few little details Sheila didn't think I knew about. Then, I checked our joint accounts. Sure enough, there had been some unusual transactions lately, money withdrawn in increments, disappearing without explanation. Sheila had been preparing for this for months. What she didn't know was that so had I. Over the next few days, I moved fast. While Sheila was busy spending time away from home, I was making sure everything important was securely under my name. She had assumed she was in control, but she had underestimated me. Then, I started dropping subtle hints. The first one was over breakfast. "So, do you have a new place lined up?" I asked casually as I poured myself a coffee. Sheila, still in her silk robe, looked up from her phone. "Excuse me." "Well," I said, taking a sip, "I assume you wouldn't be asking for a divorce if you didn't have a plan. You wouldn't just leave yourself without a place to go, right?" She hesitated. I was thinking of staying here until everything is finalized. Ah, there it is. She expected to stay in the house I paid for, while I moved out like some kind of unwanted guest. I smiled. That's not going to work for me. Her eyes narrowed. What? I mean, you asked for a divorce, I said with a shrug. It's only fair that you figure out where to go from here. I wouldn't want to be in your way. Her fingers tightened around her coffee mug. That's not how this works, Daniel. Actually, I said, tilting my head, it is. I could see it then, that first real crack in her confidence. For the first time, she was realizing that maybe, just maybe, she had miscalculated. And I wasn't done yet. The day after Sheila dropped her little divorce bomb, I noticed something interesting. She was getting nervous. Not the kind of nerves that come from regret, but the kind that creep in when someone realizes they don't have as much control as they thought. She was still trying to act like she had the upper hand, carrying herself with that same cool, distant confidence, but I could see it. The slight hesitation in her voice. The way she kept checking her phone more than usual. The way she avoided my eyes when I spoke to her. She had assumed I'd be the one panicking, that I'd be the one scrambling to figure out what to do next. But instead, I was moving forward, smiling, living my life as if she had just done me a favor. And that was starting to mess with her. The real shift happened a few days later. I came home earlier than usual from work, wanting to get some things in order. Sheila wasn't expecting me, which was clear from the way her face froze when she saw me walk through the door. She was sitting on the couch, phone in hand, mid-conversation. The second I stepped in, she went silent. Hey, I greeted casually, tossing my keys onto the table. She forced a smile. Hey, you're home early. Yeah. Figured I'd take the afternoon to start packing some of my stuff. I glanced at her phone. Who were you talking to? Her fingers tensed around the device. Just a friend. I nodded. Nice. Must be a good friend if you stopped talking the moment I walked in. She stiffened. It's nothing, Daniel. Sure, I said with a shrug, letting it go for now. But I wasn't done. Later that night, when Sheila was asleep, I made my move. She had changed the password on her phone months ago, back when the secrecy had started creeping into our marriage. But what she hadn't changed was her laptop. I sat at the kitchen table, scrolling through her emails, messages, everything I could find. And there it was, confirmation of what I had already suspected. She wasn't just leaving me. She was leaving me for someone else. His name was Matt. And based on the messages, they had been seeing each other for nearly a year. A year. I should have been angry. I should have been hurt. But all I felt was amusement. Sheila had spent so much time thinking she was playing me, that she was outmaneuvering me, setting up her escape plan while I sat around, clueless. But in reality, she was the one being played. Because Matt wasn't just some guy. Matt was broke. I scrolled through their messages, seeing all the little hints she had ignored, him asking her to help him with bills, his car payments, even sending her links to investments he wanted to make but needed her money to do it. Oh, Sheila, you left a man who built a life for you, for a man who's about to drain you dry. And that's when I knew exactly how to play this. The next morning, I made breakfast like nothing had changed. Pancakes, bacon, coffee, the whole setup. When Sheila walked in, she hesitated, clearly caught off guard. Wow, she muttered, eyeing the food. What's this? I smiled. Just thought I'd do something nice. You know, before the divorce and all. She watched me carefully as she sat down. Right. I sat across from her, pouring myself a cup of coffee. So, I was thinking about what you said, about the divorce. Her eyes lit up just a little. Oh, yeah, I nodded. I think you're right. We should end things quickly. No need to drag it out, right? She smiled, sipping her coffee. Exactly. I leaned back. So, I'll have my lawyer fast-track everything. I'll sign over what's fair, and you can move on with your new life. Her smile faltered for a split second. Oh, that's great. She wasn't expecting that. She wasn't expecting any of this. But I wasn't done yet. Sheila thought she was winning. She thought she had everything lined up, that her new life was just within reach. She had convinced herself that she was making a smart move, leaving her stable, predictable husband for an exciting, new opportunity. What she didn't realize was that she had just walked into a trap, one she had set for herself. I spent the next few days playing the perfect soon-to-be ex-husband. I was calm, agreeable, even supportive. I told her I understood, that I wanted her to be happy, that I just wanted to wrap things up quickly so we could both move forward. And she ate it up. The first real test came when she sat me down to talk about the division of assets. I was thinking, she started carefully. It might be best if I stay in the house at least for a while. I smiled. Oh, for sure. I get it. Her shoulders relaxed slightly. Good. I mean, it just makes sense. Yeah, absolutely, I agreed. It makes perfect sense. She let out a small breath of relief, clearly thinking she had won this round. Then I leaned forward. Just one thing, I said, still smiling. The house isn't in our name. Her forehead creased. What? I took a sip of my coffee, watching the confusion settle into her face. The house, Sheila. It's not ours. It's mine. She let out a nervous chuckle. What are you talking about? I set my cup down. Remember when I refinanced last year? Yeah, that wasn't just for a better rate. I had the deed transferred solely to my name. I tilted my head. So technically, you're a guest here. Her face paled. That's not possible. Oh, but it is, I said. And that means, when the divorce is finalized, you'll need to find somewhere else to stay. The silence that followed was golden. She was processing, scrambling, realizing that I wasn't the fool she had assumed I was. Finally, she scoffed, shaking her head. You're being ridiculous. I'll get half of everything in the divorce. I grinned. No, you won't. And that's when I dropped the real bomb. I reached into my pocket and slid a folded document across the table. Prenup, Sheila. Her hand trembled slightly as she picked it up. We signed this when we got married, remember? I continued, keeping my voice light. And in it, we both agreed, what's mine stays mine. Including the house. Including my savings. I leaned back, watching the realization dawn on her face. And considering you were the one who filed, well, the court isn't going to look too kindly on any request you make. She looked up at me, her mouth slightly open, like she was struggling to find the right words. You really thought you were about to walk away with half of everything, I said, shaking my head. You really thought I was that stupid? Sheila's face went through 1,000 emotions at once, shock, disbelief, and then something closer to fear. I stood up, stretching my arms. You know what the funny thing is? I probably would have given you something, if you had been honest. If you had come to me and told me you weren't happy. But instead, you played games. And now, I shrugged. Now you get nothing. She pushed back her chair, standing up fast. You can't just throw me out like this. I raised an eyebrow. Why not? I need time, she stammered. I need to figure things out. I smiled. Should have thought about that before you started dating a guy who can't even afford his own apartment. Her jaw tightened. That was it. The final confirmation. She had really thrown away everything for a guy who couldn't even support himself. I walked past her, heading toward the door. You have a month, Sheila, I said over my shoulder. After that, you're on your own. I didn't wait for her response. Because for the first time in years, I was the one walking away. The shift in Sheila was instant. For months, maybe even years, she had carried herself like she was the queen of this house, like she was the one in control, the one calling the shots. But the moment she realized she wasn't leaving this marriage with half of my assets, that she wasn't getting the clean break she had fantasized about, the cracks in her perfect facade began to show. The next few days were entertaining, to say the least. At first, she tried to act like nothing had changed. She still moved around the house like she belonged there, still put on that cool, unaffected demeanor, as if my little reveal had just been a minor inconvenience. But I could see the truth in her eyes. She was spiraling. She had planned for every possible reaction I could have. Anger, begging, even trying to win her back. But she had never planned for this. She hadn't expected to be the one caught off guard. And it was driving her insane. The first real crack came when she started picking unnecessary fights. I had just finished making dinner for myself, steak, roasted vegetables, a glass of red wine, when she came stomping into the kitchen. Oh, so now you're cooking for yourself? She snapped. I cut into my steak, completely unfazed. Yeah, I was hungry. She crossed her arms. You never used to cook when we were together. I chewed, swallowed, and shrugged. Maybe I didn't feel like it back then. She scoffed. Wow, real mature, Daniel. I took another bite. You're the one yelling over a steak, Sheila. She clenched her fists. You're just enjoying this, aren't you? I set my fork down, wiping my mouth. Enjoying what? This? She gestured vaguely around the kitchen. Watching me struggle. Watching me. I tilted my head. Watching you what? She hesitated. And that was the moment it hit me. She was struggling. I had assumed she would immediately move in with Matt, her new guy. But the way she was acting, the way she was still here, still trying to act like she had any power left in this house. It told me something she hadn't admitted yet. Things weren't going as smoothly as she thought they would. Matt hadn't let her move in yet, which meant she had nowhere to go. I leaned back in my chair, suppressing a smirk. Is something wrong, Sheila? She shot me a glare. Screw you. Then she stormed out, and I just sat there, sipping my wine, enjoying the moment. The next day, I decided to push things a little further. I had been planning on redecorating the house for a while, but now it was personal. I spent the morning boxing up all of Sheila's things, her clothes, her makeup, her stupid little decorative candles she insisted on keeping in every room. By the time she came home that evening, the house already looked different. She froze in the doorway, staring at the piles of boxes stacked near the entrance. What the hell is this? I smiled. Just getting a head start. Her mouth opened, then closed, then opened again. You can't just pack up my stuff. I shrugged. It's not your stuff anymore. You said you wanted out, remember? She marched over, grabbing one of the boxes and yanking it open. This is ridiculous. I still live here. I leaned against the wall, arms crossed. Actually, you don't. Her eyes snapped up to mine. Excuse me. I pulled out my phone, scrolling for a second before turning the screen toward her. It was a copy of our lease agreement. The lease that had my name on it. Not hers. You were never on the paperwork, Sheila, I said, my voice casual but firm. You lived here because we were married. But now, legally, you're just a guest. Her face went completely pale. For the first time, she was the one without options. For the first time, she wasn't the one in control. She swallowed hard. You're not serious. I slipped my phone back into my pocket. You've got 2 weeks to find a new place. Her hands curled into fists. You can't just throw me out. I sighed, rubbing the back of my neck. I don't know what to tell you, Sheila. Maybe Matt has a couch you can crash on. Her jaw clenched at the mention of his name. And that's when I knew, without a shadow of a doubt, Matt wasn't working out the way she thought he would. She had walked away from a stable life, convinced that she was stepping into something better. And now she was realizing she had made the biggest mistake of her life. Sheila was unraveling. I could see it in the way she carried herself, in the way her once perfect composure started cracking around the edges. She was used to being in control, used to manipulating situations to her advantage. But now, the script had flipped, and she had no idea how to handle it. The next few days were a spectacle. She tried everything: passive aggression, fake apologies, and even an attempt at seduction, which would have been hilarious if it weren't so pathetic. But I stayed calm, unmoved, and completely indifferent. And that was what drove her insane. The real meltdown started when she got a text from Matt in the middle of dinner. I wasn't paying much attention at first. I was too busy enjoying the steak I had made myself. But the second I heard her phone buzz, I noticed the way she stiffened, the way her fingers tightened around the fork, the way her whole demeanor changed in an instant. I leaned back in my chair, watching as she hesitated before picking up her phone. Whatever she saw on the screen made her face go pale. Something wrong? I asked casually, sipping my wine. She forced a tight smile. No, just something I need to take care of. She stood up abruptly, taking her phone with her as she walked out of the room. I waited a few seconds before following her. She was in the living room, pacing back and forth, phone pressed tightly to her ear. What do you mean? She hissed. You promised. No, Matt, we talked about this. I told you I'd have everything ready. No, you don't get to just Matt. Matt. Silence. Then, she let out a frustrated noise and threw her phone onto the couch. I took that as my cue. That didn't sound good. She whirled around, eyes blazing. Were you listening to me? I smirked. Hard not to when you're practically screaming. She exhaled sharply, running a hand through her hair. It's nothing. Really. I tilted my head. Because it sounded like Matt just bailed on you. Her jaw clenched. I laughed, shaking my head. Wow. He really left you hanging, huh? Guess that whole new life thing didn't work out the way you thought it would. Shut up, Daniel, she snapped. No, really. I continued, my voice dripping with mock concern. Where are you going to go now? You do have a backup plan, right? Sheila swallowed hard, and that's when it hit me. She didn't. For months, she had been so confident, so smug, thinking she had everything figured out. She thought she was upgrading, trading me in for something better. But now she was standing in front of me, completely lost, completely alone. And she had no one to blame but herself. The next day, I took things one step further. I had been patient, letting her come to terms with the fact that she had made a mistake. But now it was time to speed things up. While she was out, probably trying to figure out where the hell she was going to live, I changed the locks. It was completely legal. I owned the house, she wasn't on the lease, and she had already filed for divorce. I had no obligation to let her stay. So, when she came home later that night and tried to open the door, only to find that her key didn't work, I sat back on the couch and waited. The banging started almost immediately. "Daniel," she shouted. "Daniel, open the damn door." I took my time, finishing my drink before finally standing up and opening the door just enough to look at her. Her face was flushed, her eyes wild. "What the hell did you do?" I smiled. "Oh, I just figured, since you're leaving soon anyway, there was no point in keeping the old locks." Her hands curled into fists. "You can't do this." I leaned against the doorframe. "I can." And I did. She stared at me, breathing heavily. Then, her face crumbled. "Daniel, please. I don't have anywhere else to go." I raised an eyebrow. "Not my problem, Sheila." She swallowed hard, her eyes darting around, like she was looking for an escape. Can we talk? Please." I let the silence stretch for a moment before answering. "No." Then I closed the door in her face. And that was the moment she realized. She had lost everything. I didn't check the peephole. I didn't need to. I could hear her breathing through the door, short, panicked, like a trapped animal that suddenly realized the walls were closing in. Sheila had always been good at putting on a show, at keeping her emotions locked up behind that smug little smile of hers. But right now, she was unraveling. I waited. 5 seconds. 10. Then, knock, knock, knock. It was different this time. Not the angry pounding from before. This was desperate, controlled, pleading. "Daniel." Her voice was softer now, barely above a whisper. "Please, can we just talk?" I exhaled slowly, letting my fingers rest on the doorknob. If this had been a few months ago, maybe even a few weeks ago, I might have caved. I might have let her come back inside, let her spin some manipulative excuse, let her win. But not anymore. Not after everything. I turned around and walked away. The next morning, I stepped outside to get my mail, half expecting to see Sheila curled up on the porch. But she wasn't there. Instead, there was a single, crumpled note stuck between the door and the frame. "Daniel, please. I need to talk to you. Just 5 minutes. Please." "No, I'm sorry. No, I made a mistake. Just I need something from you." Typical Sheila. I didn't bother replying. I had already given her too much of my time, too much of my energy. She made her bed. Now she had to lie in it. But part of me was still curious. Where had she gone? A few hours later, I got my answer. I was sitting in my car at a red light when I saw her. She was standing outside a cafe, hunched over her phone, looking rough. Her hair was messy. Her clothes were wrinkled. She didn't look like the polished, put-together woman she used to be. And the best part? She wasn't alone. Matt was there too, and he looked pissed. I watched from a distance, pretending not to see them as they argued. Sheila kept gesturing wildly, pleading, while Matt stood there with his arms crossed, shaking his head. Then, finally, he turned and walked away. Just like that. Sheila was officially out of options. I should have driven off, should have left her standing there in the cold, but I wanted to see what she'd do next. She stood frozen for a moment, her hands clenching into fists. Then, slowly, she turned her head and looked around, like a lost child in the middle of a crowded mall. Then her eyes landed on me. For a second, neither of us moved. Then, slowly, cautiously, she started walking toward my car. I could see it all over her face. The regret, the desperation, the realization that she had lost everything. I rolled down the window. "Something wrong." She swallowed hard. "Daniel." I held up a hand. "No." She blinked. "What?" "I know what you're about to do," I said. "You're about to say you're sorry. You're about to tell me you made a mistake, that you were confused, that you didn't know what you were doing. And then, after that, you're going to ask me for help." Sheila's eyes flickered. But here's the thing," I continued. "I don't care." She sucked in a sharp breath. "I gave you everything," I said. "I gave you a life, a home, security. And you threw it all away because you thought you could do better." Her lips trembled. I wasn't thinking." I smirked. "Yeah, that much is obvious." She opened her mouth, then closed it again. For the first time in her life, she had nothing to say, nothing to offer, nothing to manipulate. I put the car in drive. "Goodbye, Sheila." She reached out, like she was about to say something else, maybe one last desperate plea, but before she could, I rolled up the window and drove away. I didn't look back. I didn't look back. Not once. As I drove away, there was no sense of victory, no overwhelming triumph. Just peace. A quiet, satisfying stillness that settled deep inside me. I had spent years, being the man who gave and gave while Sheila took and took. And now? Now I was finally free. But I wasn't done yet. A week passed. Then another. Sheila tried reaching out a few times, calls, texts, even an email that I deleted without opening. She had finally realized that I wasn't playing along anymore, that the door she had confidently slammed shut behind her wasn't just closed, it was locked. Then, one evening, I got a call from an unknown number. I wasn't going to answer, but something in me said to pick up. I put the phone to my ear. Hello? Silence. Then, Daniel. It was her. I sighed. What do you want, Sheila? She hesitated, her voice quieter than I had ever heard it. I wanted to say I'm sorry. I leaned back in my chair, letting the words hang in the air. For what? For everything, she admitted. For taking you for granted. For thinking I could just walk away and have it all work out. I didn't say anything. I lost everything, she whispered. Matt's gone. My savings are almost gone. I don't even have a real place to stay anymore. I should have felt bad for her. Should have felt something. But all I felt was nothing. I had spent too much time caring, too much time hurting. That part of me was gone now. She let out a shaky breath. I know I can't undo what I did. I know I don't deserve anything from you. But I wanted to say it. I wanted you to know that I understand now. I closed my eyes for a moment, then exhaled. Okay, I said simply. She waited, probably expecting more. A second chance. A sign of weakness. But there was nothing left to give her. She had made her choices. Now she had to live with them. Goodbye, Sheila, I said, my voice steady. She didn't respond. Just a soft, resigned exhale before the line went dead. I put the phone down, feeling lighter than I had in years. And with that, I moved on. For good.